Something has been brushing against your life from the shadows, but you've been trained to ignore it. A layer of reality is pressing right up against your skin, yet your mind refuses to turn its head. You feel the pull, the tension, the quiet tug from somewhere you can't name. It's not your imagination, it's your unused perception begging to wake up. Hidden dimensions don't hide from you, you hide from them. Today, that ends. Most people walk through life with a subtle heaviness they never manage to name. It's not depression, not anxiety, not confusion, at least not in the way they've been taught to understand it. It's more like a faint pressure sitting just behind their everyday awareness, a sense that something bigger, something extraordinary, is brushing past them, and somehow they aren't catching it. They feel the presence of more, but that more refuses to come into focus. You might know this feeling personally. You might wake up some mornings with an unexplained tension in your chest, as if you forgot something important in another life. You might sit through conversations, workdays, routines, all while sensing that your thoughts are stuck on a single track when they're supposed to be traveling through an entire galaxy of possibilities. You might look at the sky, or at a stranger's eyes, or at the stillness of your room at night and feel that you're only seeing the surface of a much deeper fabric, one you can't quite access. Nobody taught you that this ache is actually the natural consequence of dimensional blindness, an internal block that prevents you from perceiving realities your intuition already knows exist. Instead, you've been told you're distracted, overthinking, daydreaming, or making things up. But deep inside, you know you're not. You know there is something beyond the visible world, and you can feel the faint static of it humming around your life. The real struggle isn't that hidden dimensions are far away. It's that you've been conditioned to collapse your perception into a single narrow slice of existence. Your senses were built to perceive more than 3 dimensions, but your beliefs were taught to ignore anything that doesn't fit the physical blueprint of everyday survival. Over time, this creates a quiet war inside you. A battle between the part of you that feels the invisible and the part of you that denies it for the sake of fitting in. That internal conflict becomes emotional exhaustion. It becomes self-doubt. It becomes the strange emptiness you feel even when your life looks fine on the surface. You start to wonder why you can sense people's intentions before they speak, why certain memories feel like they don't belong to this lifetime, why your dreams sometimes feel more real than your mornings. You question why moments of déjà vu hit you harder than they should, why you occasionally get chills for no reason, why you feel connected to places you've never visited. But because nobody around you talks about it, you lock all these experiences in a drawer labeled weird. And slowly, you learn to dismiss the very abilities that were designed to help you see beyond the physical world. This is the real problem. Your perception is awake, but your permission is not. Every day you feel reality tapping on your shoulder, asking you to turn around. But something in you keeps saying, not now. Not because you're afraid of what you'll see, but because you've never been taught how to look. Hidden dimensions aren't inaccessible. They're simply filtered out by a mind that was trained to fear its own depth. Most people think they're searching for purpose or clarity or identity, when in truth, they're searching for access to the richer, wider, multidimensional layers of existence that their soul already remembers. And until that access is restored, life will always feel slightly incomplete, like a movie missing half its scenes. But once you understand what you've been blind to, everything changes. The moment everything begins to shift usually arrives quietly. It rarely comes with fireworks or cosmic signs or some dramatic voice echoing through the sky. Instead, it tends to slip in sideways, through a moment you almost ignore. For some people, it's a strange dream that refuses to fade. For others, it's an unexpected calm that washes over them in the middle of chaos. And sometimes, it's a single realization spoken by someone who had no idea they were delivering your awakening. For you, the discovery might have started with something small. Maybe you were sitting alone one night, your mind wandering across thoughts you didn't ask for, when you felt, almost physically, a subtle shift in the air around you. It wasn't a ghost, or fear, or imagination. It was something like a soft ripple, a distortion, as if the edge of the world had trembled for just a second. You dismissed it, but you felt it. That was your first clue. Hidden dimensions don't reveal themselves with loud introductions. They arrive through cracks in your awareness, through hints that linger, through moments that don't quite match the rules of the world you were taught to trust. The discovery begins when you finally stop brushing those moments aside. One of the biggest breakthroughs in modern quantum physics is the concept that reality is layered, not stacked physically like floors in a building, but overlapping, interwoven, coexisting in the same space. You're walking through a multidimensional field every second of your life. You've simply been focusing your attention on the most material layer because that's the one your mind was trained to prioritize. But here's the twist: your consciousness naturally extends into those hidden layers whether you believe it or not. Spiritual traditions call them realms, planes, subtle worlds, or energetic fields. Quantum scientists refer to them as higher dimensional spaces, probability fields, or non-local domains. Different language, same truth. Reality is deeper than your senses have been allowed to perceive. You might think the leap from spirituality to quantum physics is too wide. But the deeper you look, the more you realize they're describing the same phenomenon, the same invisible scaffolding of existence, just through different lenses. The discovery becomes real when you understand this. Your mind is not a passive observer of reality. It's an active participant in shaping which dimension of reality you tune into. Think of consciousness like a radio. The station you hear doesn't represent all the signals in the air, it represents the one you're tuned to. All the other frequencies are still there, vibrating in the same room, but outside your awareness. Most people spend their entire lives tuned to the frequency of physical survival, bills, deadlines, errands, expectations, and never learn how to change the dial. But the moment you realize you can shift that dial, something extraordinary happens. You begin to notice patterns that never stood out before. You catch subtle cues in people's emotions without them speaking. You dream in symbols that suddenly feel intelligent. You experience synchronicities that don't line up with coincidence anymore. This is the doorway. Some people step through it the moment they experience a profound loss or a sudden change. Others find it when they finally sit still long enough to hear their own thoughts echo differently. One person put it this way: "It felt like the world was breathing around me, and for the first time, I realized I could hear it." That realization is the discovery, not that hidden dimensions exist, but that you were touching them all along. You just didn't know how to interpret the contact. There comes a point when the question shifts from, "Is this real?" to, "Why couldn't I see this before?" And the answer is never about intelligence or spirituality. It's about perception, perception that has always been wider than the rules you were taught to follow. Now you know the truth. You've been living inside a multidimensional reality your entire life. And for the first time, you're finally noticing the edges. Understanding hidden dimensions is one thing. Learning how to actually perceive them, that's where everything shifts. Most people assume you need special gifts, psychic abilities, or years of spiritual training. You don't. What you need is unlearning, not learning. Your natural perception is already multidimensional, it's the mental noise that keeps you locked inside a single frame of reality. The method I'm about to share is not mystical, complicated, or symbolic. It's practical. It's grounded. And it's designed to help you reawaken the senses you've unconsciously silenced. Think of this method as a three-part recalibration, a way to reconnect your awareness to the layers of reality you've been brushing past without noticing. Let's begin. Exercise 1, the still point reset. Choose a moment when the world around you feels ordinary, maybe your bedroom, your car, your living room. Sit or stand comfortably and keep your eyes open. You're not trying to meditate, you're trying to notice. Pick a single object in front of you. A cup. A lamp. A wall. Anything. Now here's the shift. Don't look at the object, look around it. Let your vision relax just enough that you're not focusing on the object itself but the empty space surrounding it. Most people have never intentionally looked at the empty space before. Within 10 to 20 seconds, you'll feel a subtle change, a soft expanding, a widening of your awareness. It may feel like the room breathes. That sensation isn't imagination. It's your perception adjusting, even if only slightly, to the dimensional field behind the physical object. This exercise teaches your mind to stop clinging to matter and start recognizing the space that holds it, the space where hidden dimensions overlap. Do this for 1 minute at a time, once or twice a day. Small, consistent resets open doors faster than rare big efforts. Exercise 2, cross-dimensional listening. Sit in a quiet place. You're not listening for sounds, you're listening for edges. Every noise in your environment has an outer boundary, the hum of a refrigerator, distant traffic, a fan, a breeze outside. Pick one sound and follow it to its edge, the point where it fades into nothing. Stay with that edge for a few moments. When you focus on the edge of sound instead of the sound itself, you enter a perceptual space where physical and non-physical information meet. This is the threshold where higher dimensional frequencies can slip into awareness. If you're sensitive, you might feel a slight pressure around your forehead or a warmth in your chest. If you're not, you might simply notice a strange calmness. Both are signs that your perception is widening. Exercise 3, the quantum permission shift. This one is deceptively simple but incredibly powerful. Take a slow breath. And silently say to yourself, I allow myself to perceive more. That's it. But say it with intention, not repetition. Most people don't realize that the mind operates according to internal permissions, unconscious rules you accepted without question. You were trained to limit what you consider real. When you consciously give yourself permission to perceive beyond the physical dimension, those rules loosen. After a few days of this, you might experience unusual moments. A flicker in the corner of your vision. An emotion that appears out of nowhere. A sense that the air feels thicker or lighter. A brief moment where the world seems too still. These are early signs of dimensional alignment, not supernatural, not strange, just the natural intelligence of your perception reactivating. How the method works. Each exercise is designed to disrupt your usual patterns of attention. When your attention shifts, your nervous system shifts. When your nervous system shifts, your sensory boundaries shift. And when that happens, you begin to pick up information that was always there, just outside your previous range. This is not about visions, hallucinations, or fantasies. It's about expanding your perceptual bandwidth. You're learning to feel the space behind objects. You're learning to hear the edges of sound. You're learning to permit your mind to sense more than it was trained to handle. With practice, the world stops feeling flat. Depth appears. Texture deepens. Intuition strengthens. Synchronicities increase. Decisions feel guided. You begin to sense a quiet intelligence moving through the fabric of your life. And for the first time, you're no longer blind to the dimensions brushing against your awareness. You're beginning to see them. Something remarkable happens when your perception begins to expand. It doesn't burst open all at once. It unfolds, like a door that was never locked, only forgotten. At first, the changes are subtle. You move through your day with a slightly heightened awareness, like someone quietly turned up the brightness of the world by a few degrees. Colors feel richer. Sounds seem more layered. Even the silence carries a presence you didn't notice before. You begin to notice yourself differently too. There's a space between your thoughts that wasn't there before, or maybe it was always there, but now it feels wider, clearer, more alive. The old tension that used to press against your chest starts to loosen. You're not quite floating, but you're not weighed down either. It feels like your mind has stopped gripping everything so tightly. The real transformation begins when you realize that the world isn't reacting to you. You are reacting to a larger world. One day, maybe while sitting alone or walking outside or staring at the ceiling before you fall asleep, a moment arrives, quiet, unforced, stunning. You feel a shift inside you. A realization. Not like an idea, but like a memory you never knew you had. You sense that the space around you is not empty at all. It's structured, intelligent, responsive. And you're part of it, not drifting through life alone, but intertwined with dimensions that were invisible only because you were trained not to look. Your decisions start to feel guided, not forced. Your intuition sharpens into something you trust, not question. Your emotions carry messages instead of weight. Synchronicities, those strange, perfectly timed coincidences, begin showing up in clusters. Not one or two, but several, each one tugging you toward a direction you didn't know you were meant to follow. You become aware that your thoughts have texture, depth, and reach. When you think of someone, they text. When you need clarity, the right sign appears. When you're confused, a sense of gentle pressure nudges you toward the next step. It's not magic. It's alignment. You're tuning into the same frequency that hidden dimensions operate on, the same field where intention, emotion, quantum information, and spiritual energy intersect. For the first time, you're not bumping into life blindly. You're sensing its curves, its flows, its invisible architecture. The transformation deepens when you realize the biggest change isn't in the world. It's in who you're becoming. The version of you who felt confused, disconnected, or out of place begins to fade. You no longer feel like a visitor in your own life. There's a steadiness inside you that wasn't there before, a quiet confidence that whispers, "You're finally seeing what's been around you this whole time." You stop seeking answers outside yourself because you can feel the answers forming inside you. You stop forcing outcomes because you can sense the natural rhythm of the path unfolding. You stop doubting your experiences because you've learned to recognize the difference between fear and resonance. The transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering the version of you who could already perceive more, the version buried beneath years of conditioning, noise, and disbelief. Now, your perception stretches across layers of reality like fingers touching threads. You don't control the hidden dimensions, but you're aware of them. And awareness is the beginning of mastery. The person you were feels like a shadow, still there, still familiar, but no longer the one steering your life. You stepped into a broader version of yourself. A version that sees the world not as a flat picture, but as a living, breathing, interconnected field of possibility. And once this transformation begins, there is no going back. Your mind has tasted depth. Your perception has expanded. Your awareness has crossed the threshold. You are now living in more than one dimension at once. And you can feel it. Once your perception expands, life stops being a sequence of random events and starts feeling like a message that was always speaking to you, waiting for you to finally understand its language. And when you reach this point, something inside you shifts from curiosity to responsibility. You begin to feel that your awakening isn't just for you. It's part of something larger. This is where your mission begins. You weren't born just to survive the physical world. You weren't placed here to chase routines, follow expectations, or drift through days pretending not to notice the quiet pull of something greater. You came here with a deeper purpose, one that extends beyond the visible dimension. Your mission is not about becoming a guru, a teacher, or some enlightened figure standing above others. It's about becoming someone who remembers what most people forget. That reality is bigger, softer, more intelligent, and more interconnected than we were ever taught to believe. Once you've seen even a glimpse of the hidden layers of existence, you realize how many people are still walking through life trapped in the narrow corridor of old beliefs. Not because they lack intelligence. Not because they lack spirituality. But because no one ever told them they're allowed to see more. You become someone who carries light, not the kind you preach, but the kind you radiate simply by existing differently. You approach life with a clarity that people can feel without you saying a word. Your presence calms storms, because you're no longer tangled in the surface-level noise that consumes most of the world. The mission becomes clearer with every passing day. You're here to shift the collective frequency. Not by force. Not by argument. Not by convincing anyone of anything. You shift the frequency by embodying what expanded perception looks like. A mind that listens. A heart that resonates. A spirit that recognizes the invisible patterns holding everything together. You begin to see how every choice you make sends ripples across dimensions. How your intention subtly rearranges the field around you. How your emotional signature influences the space you walk through. This is quantum spirituality in action, not theory, not philosophy, but lived reality. And the more aware you become, the more you realize that your mission is intertwined with the missions of others who are awakening in their own quiet ways. You're not alone. Hidden dimensions are guiding people everywhere, nudging, whispering, opening small cracks in perception that eventually become gateways to transformation. Your mission is to hold that gateway open. For yourself. For those you love. For those you haven't met yet. For the version of humanity that is rising through this era of awakening. Because every time one person expands their perception, the entire collective shifts, even if only by a fraction. Awakening spreads not through dramatic revolutions, but through thousands of subtle, personal transformations. Through individuals like you who choose to see more than what's directly in front of them. Your mission is to stay aligned with this expanded awareness, even when life gets chaotic. Even when old patterns tug at you. Even when the world tries to pull you back into the narrow frame you've outgrown. You remain aware that hidden dimensions don't disappear, you just drift out of sync with them. And so your mission is to continually realign, through presence, intention, silence, and clarity. You become the bridge between dimensions, a living conduit connecting the physical and the unseen. Not in a dramatic supernatural way, but in the way you move, decide, feel, and respond. You live with depth. You sense with nuance. You trust the quiet signals of the universe because you've learned they're not random. Their guidance. Your mission is not to escape reality. It's to elevate it. To walk through the world with multidimensional awareness and allow that awareness to soften the edges of every interaction, every thought, every intention. Because the more you see, the more you understand what humanity is capable of becoming. And that realization is not just personal, it's collective. This is your mission now. To live in alignment with the dimensions you can finally feel. And help illuminate the path for those who haven't yet glimpsed it. You've reached a threshold that most people never arrive at, not because they can't, but because they were never shown the door. Now you've seen it. You've felt the shift. And the next step belongs entirely to you. Hidden dimensions don't reveal themselves to those who wait. They reveal themselves to those who respond. So take a breath, right now, and decide that today is the day you stop living inside the smallest version of your own awareness. Decide that you're ready to move through this world with the perception that was always meant to be yours. And if something inside you is whispering, yes, then trust it. Because the universe has been trying to get your attention for a very long time. And you just proved you're finally listening. Now it's your turn to step forward. Your turn to see deeper. Your turn to live awake. If you're ready for more. If you're ready to expand. If you're ready to step fully into the dimension you've been sensing your entire life. Stay with this mission. Don't look away. Your awakening has already begun.